Have a seat. Just have a seat. I need to swear him in the jury's presence. You can be seated. You want to sit here with us?
Give us your name, sir.
George.
Stay with the call?
Yes.
Defense with the call?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give in the hearing of this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please have a seat.
Give us your name, sir.
George Thomas.
For the record, can you spell your first name
George
and your last name?
Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, do you know Eric Boyd?
Yes.
For the record, can you tell us what does he have on today?
Blue shirt
And where is he seated at?
on the defense side.
Record can reflect witness as identified Mr. Boyd.
The record will so reflect.
Mr. Thomas, where are you from?
Michigan.
What part?
Detroit.
You still have family there?
Yes.
At some point in time, you came to know a Latavis Cobbins.
Correct.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
About 2005, 6.
How did you come to meet Mr. Cobbins?
In Memphis.
And through Mr. Cobbins, did you come to meet a Lamarcus Davidson?
Yes.
And how did that come about?
We were staying in Kentucky, and I think his brother had just got out of jail a couple of months before, and then we came down here came to here from Kentucky, and stayed a couple of days at first, then went and came back.
So, and when you're saying that, you're not talking about the January incident.
No.
Do you remember if it was warm outside or cold outside when you first came down here to visit Mr. Davis?
No, it was December.
It was in December?
Yes.
And do you remember the address? Was it the same house as the Chittenden Street?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you remember who came down with you?
On the first trip, it was Latavis, Vanessa, Natasha, Stacy, dude named Little Daddy, I can't recall his name, and another female, I think Lauren or something like that.
Now, so the jury knows, what was the relationship between you and Stacy Lawson at the time?
Well, we was boyfriend and girlfriend.
And what was the relationship between Latalvis Cobbins and Vanessa Coleman at the time?
Boyfriend and girlfriend.
So you said the first time y'all came down in December, you stayed a couple of days?
It might have, it was one day. We came down, might have been two, I mean.
Okay. And so you go back, but at some point in time, you decide to come back to Knoxville.
Correct.
And is that going to be the event, the time that leads up to these events?
Correct.
And so that particular time, do you recall who all came down with you?
It was just Stacy, Vanessa, Latalvis, and myself.
How did you get down here?
In Stacy's car.
When you get down here, where do you go?
To Lamarcus's house.
Do you recall who all was at Lamarcus's house?
Lamarcus and Daphne.
Okay. And so we're making sure we're talking about the same people. Showing you Exhibit 433.
Vanessa.
Right, that's Vanessa. Showing you Exhibit 290. You recognize Exhibit 290?
That's Lamarcus.
I'd like to move Exhibit 290 in as evidence, and I'll write Lamarcus on here. showing you Exhibit 291. You recognize Exhibit 291?
That's Eric.
The same one seated at the defense table?
Correct.
Like to move Exhibit 291 in as evidence?
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
292, you recognize 292?
That's Latalis.
And of course, that would be you?
Yes.
293.
Any objection to those exhibits?
No, Your Honor.
Let those go into evidence.
And just so we're clear, 364, is this the house we're speaking about?
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said Daphne? And who was Daphne to LaMarcus?
His girlfriend.
You recognize Exhibit 294?
Yes, that's Daphne.
Like to move Exhibit 294 in as evidence?
No objection.
And 295, you recognize that as,
Stacy.
and 296?
Natasha.
All right, so when y'all get down here, tell us about what's going on there at the house.
At first, everybody was just sitting around lollygagging. Then LaMarcus got into it with Daphne, but that was like on a Thursday, because a Thursday was when I recall first meeting the defendant. We went to some basketball game, a pickup game that there was at. Then later on that night, Daphne and LaMarcus got into it. Then she left, and Friday didn't do too much of anything. And
Can I stop you for a second? Let's go back to Thursday. You said you met the defendant, Mr. Boyd, at a basketball game?
no, they had came over to the house and they had picked us up, and we went over there. That was the first day that I remember meeting him.
Do you recall who he was with?
He was with, I believe, his cousin. I don't know his name.
Okay. And who did he and his cousin, who did they pick up?
No, they picked us all up. Well, no, they picked LaMarcus, Latalvis, Vanessa, and myself up. Daphne, I think she wanted to go or something, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what was going on with that.
And so all of y'all went with them for the basketball game?
Correct.
And who actually played? Who was on the same team? Who was he on the team with?
I think he was on the team with LaMarcus.
Okay, that's what you're for.
Correct.
All right, so after the game, where did y'all go?
Back to the house.
All right, and I apologize for interrupting. What happened when you got back to the house?
That's when LaMarcus and Daphne had gotten into it. I can't even recall the reason why, but they had gotten into it, and then she had left.
And so when she left, who does that leave there at the house?
Just LaMarcus, Latalvis, Vanessa, and myself.
All right, so what happens Friday?
Nothing too much.
Now, whenever Daphne leaves, do you guys have a car?
No.
Are you aware of whether or not anyone there at the house had a job?
No.
All right, Friday you don't recall anything?
No.
All right, what's the next thing you recall?
Saturday morning, I woke up kind of late in the afternoon, early in the afternoon, and Latalvis was telling me that his brother wanted to go do something, and I'm like, what does he want to do? He said he wanted to go steal a car, and I'm like, okay. And I'm telling him he tripping. He need to, I don't know what he owned. I just told him, okay, I mean, whatever y'all gonna do, that's what y'all would do.
And so can you tell the jury has seen the video of the house, can you tell the jury the sleeping arrangements? Who slept in the first bedroom?
The front bedroom was LaMarcus's, and then through the bathroom, going into the next bedroom was where LaTalvis and Vanessa had slept, and then in the living room, in the corner, as soon as you come inside the house, that's where I slept.
And so in the video, we saw a couple of blankets laid out there. Would that be the blankets that you would use to sleep?
Correct.
All right, so whenever you wake up, I take it you wake up in the living room?
Yes.
And so where does LaTalvis come from to give you this information?
He might have came from the back. He could have been already sitting right there in a chair or something. But he told me that his brother wanted to go do something. And like I said, I asked him what it was. He said, it's still a car. And then I'm like, okay. And he like, man, I'm telling him he tripping. He needs to I'm telling him just cool out or whatever. Then they eventually left.
And can I stop you for a second? When you say they, who is they?
Well, at first, LaMarcus left, but then a little while later, LaTalvis left as well, and then that's when they was gone for a good little while, and when they came back, when they came in, they had both of the victims blindfolded and bound by the wrist, lead them into the house. Then they brought Miss Christian into the front bedroom and left Mr. Newsom in the sun porch area right there.
All right, I want to stop you again. I apologize. When you say, let me back up. When you say that LaMarcus had left, did he leave in a car or on foot? How did he leave?
As far as I didn't see them leave, so I don't know if they left together or not, but Vanessa had told me that Rome had went to the store, and then when they came back, they was both together, so I figured he either left with him or after he left, but met up together.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Boyd at all that night?
Yes.
Okay. And so when was the first time that you saw Mr. Boyd?
When they returned.
Okay. And so walk us through, when they returned, what do you see?
When they first came in, I
Who's
seen
the first one that came in?
LaTalvis.
LaTalvis?
Yes.
And did you see where he came from?
He just came in through the front door because, as they seen the video, this the front door, but then it's a sun porch. So the front door or the front of the sun porch would be locked or open, or, that's how they would lock and get into the house.
So when he first came in, what, if anything, did he say?
He just told me it's time to go. And I'm like, what's going on? What's up? And then that's when I seen Miss Christian and Mr. Newsom come in.
What can you tell us about Miss Christian? What did you notice about her?
She had a oversized hoodie on with her eyes blindfolded and her wrists were bound.
Who was behind Miss Christian?
Mr. Davidson.
And what did you notice about Mr. Davidson?
Nothing too much. He was just kind of leading her into the living room.
Was she saying anything?
No.
Who was behind Mr. Davidson?
When he came in, Mr. Newsom was still standing right there.
Who was with Mr. Newsom?
Mr. Boyd.
What can you tell us about Mr. Newsom? How did he appear?
He was blindfolded and bound as well.
How was he bound?
By the wrist with some cloth, or it was like strings that was tying him.
Did you know where the strings came from?
I mean, not at the time, but I mean, I know where it come from now.
It will come, where did it come from?
After Freeman, she had, we had helped her move from one place to another, and she had gave LaMarcus some bedding and some curtains of like a floor design, all of them was matching.
What about the bindings for Miss Christian? Do you know where they came from?
If I'm not mistaken, it was the same material, same.
And so Mr. Newsom, you said is in the sunroom?
Correct.
You said his arms were bound, or his hands were bound? Are they in front of him or behind him?
I think they were behind him.
What about any bindings on his legs?
Not that I noticed.
Let me, if I can show you Exhibit 302. Ask you to recognize Exhibit 302.
That's after Freeman.
I'd like to move Exhibit 302 in as evidence.
No objection.
Let be received.
What do you notice Mr. Boyd doing?
Nothing, just standing right there.
Is he saying anything?
No.
What else do you notice?
When I looked out there, I noticed a white SUV.
Had you seen that before?
No.
Why? What happens after that?
Then a little while, I mean, they took Miss Christian into the front bedroom,
Who did?
LaMarcus.
And you said her arms were bound?
Correct.
What about her legs?
Not that I noticed. I mean, she was walking, so I don't think.
You said she had on a blindfold?
Correct.
What kind of blindfold?
Like a do-rag or bandana.
Bandana? You notice anything at all about, did she have on clothes?
Yes.
She have on shoes?
Yes.
Pants?
Yes.
Where is Mr. Davidson at when he walks Miss Christian into the bedroom?
He was in the bedroom, then he came out to the living
And is he
room.
behind her when he walks her into the bedroom?
Correct.
And I apologize, he walks her into the bedroom, do you hear anything?
No.
Does he say anything?
Not that I can hear if he did say anything.
I apologize, what happens after he walks her into the bedroom?
He turns around and, I mean, as you can see, it wasn't no doorway or anything right there. He just kind of stood right there and came up a little closer.
Closer to who?
Well, just closer into the living room.
Where are you at the time?
I was still in the living room at the time, but then I walked to the back bedroom,
Where's Mr. Newsom?
still in the sunroom,
And where's Mr. Boyd?
still in the sunroom.
What happens after that?
Then a couple, I say 15 minutes tops goes by, and then go to the living room, and Mr. Davidson says, go with Mr. Boyd,
Who does Mr. Davidson say that to?
to me.
And at this point in time, where is Mr. Boyd?
Standing in the doorway of the living room / sunroom right there.
Has Mr. Boyd said anything to you at the time?
No.
Where is Mr. Newsom?
Still in the sunroom. I couldn't see him, but I figured he was still in the sunroom.
Is Mr. Newsom saying anything?
No.
Can you tell us how Mr. Newsom is dressed?
Pants, shirt,
Does he have on any shoes?
yes.
Ball cap?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think he did.
You said he had a blindfold on?
Correct.
What kind of blindfold?
I don't think that was a bandana. I don't know. It could have been just a strip of the sheet or something else.
You have anything in his mouth?
Not that I can recall.
At this point in time, do you hear Shannon say anything?
No.
Do you know where she's at?
Yeah, she's still in the front bedroom.
Has anyone said anything about Shannon?
No.
Does Mr. Davidson tell you why he wants you to go with Mr. Boyd?
No, not at first he didn't say anything. He was just like, go with him. And I'm like, for what's up? And then he like, man, just go. And so after that, we go down to the SUV.
Let me ask you this. Whenever you say you go out, who goes out of the house first?
Mr. Newsom,
Who's behind Mr. Newsom?
Mr. Boyd.
What do you notice about Mr. Boyd?
He's kind of leading them out
And where are you at?
behind him.
And where do you go?
We jump in the SUV and then go around some corners.
Who's driving?
Mr. Boyd
And where are you at?
in the passenger,
And where is Mr. Newsom?
in the back.
Which side?
He was kind of like laying down, but he was on the seat. But I say his bottom half was probably behind me more.
Is anything said between you and Mr. Boyd when you walk out of the house?
No,
What happens when you get into the SUV?
we go around a couple of corners and end up at a industrial building, some kind of warehouse or some kind of building, and we pulled up down the back of the building where it's a road that leads to like a drainage thing. It's behind the building. It could have been an old loading dock or anything, but it just dead ended right there, and then across from like the little drainage ditch, it was the railroad tracks.
Does Mr. Boyd say anything to you?
Yeah, he told me to help him with Mr. Newsom.
What does he want you to help him do?
I guess take him over to where Mr. Newsom was.
At this point in time, can you describe to us how is Mr. Newsom dressed?
He didn't have any shoes on at the time.
When did his shoes come on?
I don't know. They could have came off inside of the house and was left inside the sunroom. As we was walking out, I didn't pay any attention to his feet.
Mr. Newsom, are his legs bound or is he still able to walk?
He was still able to walk.
Are his arms still bound?
Yes.
He still have on pants?
Yes.
What about his shirt?
Yes.
What happens when Mr. Boyd stops the SUV?
He tells me to help him get out and take Mr. Newsom out of the SUV, and I just told him no.
What happens then?
He looks at me and just and just got out and took Mr. Newsom out of the SUV and walked him toward.
Sorry, what did you see Mr. Boyd do?
He got out of the SUV and opened the back door and grabbed Mr. Newsom, and they walked towards the drainage ditch area.
What are you doing?
I'm sitting beside the front seat, just looking.
Was Mr. Newsom, I apologize, was Mr. Newsom behind you or behind Mr. Boyd in the car?
His lower half was behind me. He was laying across the back of the seat.
What do you see Mr. Boyd do with Mr. Newsom when he gets him out of the car?
he walks them towards where the drainage ditch is, and then they cross the drainage ditch.
What happens after that?
Then kind of pulled them off to the side. It was a stand of trees across. I guess it was across the little drainage ditch. It was some trees over there. Kind of pulled them over towards that way. Well, walked them over that way. Then I seen three light bright shots basically, and then he pulled them over this towards the other side of the building, like behind the building. And then that's when he had came back and grabbed a can of gas and went back over there.
You said you saw the 3 flashes.
Correct.
Did you ever see a gun?
Well, I seen he had a gun, but I didn't see him with the gun in his hand as he was walking over towards that way.
When is the first time you saw Mr. Boyd with a gun?
Earlier, I seen him with a gun before that day, but I didn't see him with the gun in his hand that day when we was right there.
So when you saw the 3 flashes, who did you see pulling Mr. Newsom?
Mr. Boyd.
And where did he pull Mr. Newsom to?
Directly before me and to the back of the building.
What happened after he pulled Mr. Newsom to that location?
He came back and grabbed the can of gas.
Who did that?
Mr. Boyd.
How did the gas can get in the car?
It could have already been in there. Didn't nobody bring it to the SUV when we was leaving out the house to go into the...
Does he say anything to you when he comes back to the SUV?
No.
So what happens after you see him get the gas?
He goes back towards the area where he had pulled Mr. Newsom, and that's when, a couple of minutes later, I seen a bright whoosh.
What happens after that?
Then, he stays right there for a second, then jumps back in the SUV.
I apologize. What did you say?
I said he stands right there for a sec, stays over there for a second, and then comes back and jumps back into the SUV.
Does he say anything to you when he gets in the SUV?
Nothing about what had happened.
What does he say?
I can't recall, probably just some small talk. I really can't recall.
Do you recall if you said anything to him?
No, I didn't say anything to him.
What happens when he gets in the SUV?
We drive back over to the house.
What happens when you get to the house?
We go in and then
Who gets out first?
kind of both got at the same time.
I apologize for interrupting. What happens when you get to the house?
We just go inside the house, and then he said something to Mr. Davidson as far as that's taken care of or whatever the case. And then he stays for a little while longer, and then he had left.
Now, where is Miss Christian at whenever you get back to the house?
As far as I knew, she was still inside the front bedroom.
Is she saying anything?
If she was, I didn't hear her.
When you walk into the house, who's the first person you see?
Latalis,
And where is he at?
in the living room.
Do you see Mr. Davidson at all?
Not at first.
What about Ms. Coleman?
I think she was into the back bedroom.
And so whenever you get in the house, does Mr. Boyd also come in the house?
Yes.
Is he coming behind you or in front of you?
Behind.
And did both of you walk into the living room?
Yes.
So when the both of you get into the living room, who all is in the living room?
Just Latalis.
And where does Mr. Boyd go when he gets into the living room?
Kind of walked over towards the front bedroom.
Does he go inside the front bedroom or no?
Kind of standing just within the doorway.
And is your understanding who is in the front bedroom?
LaMarcus and Miss Christian.
And what, if anything, do you hear Mr. Boyd say?
Like that's taken care of, something to that effect. It's something else. I mean, I don't know. All I heard was that's taken care of, and he said something else to him.
Do you hear Mr. Davidson say anything back?
He, like, basically, okay.
What does Mr. Boyd do then?
Stays in there for a little while.
Stays in where?
In the house, right there inside the area, coming out of the bedroom into the front room right there.
So what rooms does Mr. Boyd go in while he's there?
Just the front room and the front bedroom.
When he goes in the front bedroom, where is Shannon?
In the front bedroom.
Do you know how long he goes in the front bedroom? How long he stays in the front bedroom?
I mean, he wasn't there long.
Where was Mr. Davidson at when Mr. Boyd was in the front bedroom with Shannon?
No, they was in the front bedroom together.
Did you hear if anything what was happening in the front bedroom with the three of them in there?
No, just when I just heard like when he first stepped into the bedroom and said something to LaMarcus, which was that's taken care of, and something else, and Mr. Davis says like, okay.
Now I apologize, I think that the court reporter is having a little trouble hearing you. Can you scoot up a little bit closer? After he says that's taken care of, what happens? What does he do?
They start talking for a while, then Mr. Boyd leaves.
Now how does he leave?
He left inside his car.
Can you describe his car for us?
It was a white Pontiac.
Show you this series of photos. You recognize Exhibit 14?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 14?
The car that Mr. Boyd was in.
Exhibit 14, Mr. Boyd seated at the defense table?
Correct.
Where had that car been? I mean, where was it parked at before he went and got in it?
It was parked across the street.
In front of the house? Across the street?
Kind of, I mean, a little bit in front of like the neighbor's house, but across the street.
Does he say anything before he leaves, Mr. Boyd?
Not to me.
Where was he at before he left? And was he hanging out in the bedroom with Mr. Davidson and Ms. Christian, or was he in the living room with you and Mr. Collins?
I mean, he spent the majority of the time inside the bedroom right there with Mr. Davidson, but then he was into the front bedroom, front living room as well.
Of the four, was Mr. Boyd closer to you, closer to Mr. Collins, or closer to Mr. Davidson as relates to friendship?
Of Mr. Davidson.
Did you ever hear any other conversation taking place in the front bedroom between Mr. Boyd, Mr. Davidson, and Ms. Christian?
No.
So what are you and Mr. Collins doing in the living room while they're in the bedroom?
He was asking me like what had, what happened, and I was just sitting right there like just shaking my head at him like And he like, what's going on? I'm like, we just killed dude.
Can you describe the gun that you saw Mr. Boyd with?
He had it was a automatic 22.
It wasn't the revolver.
No.
How do you know it was a 22?
I mean, the size of the gun. I mean, I know guns, or as far as if I seen them or
A smaller gun.
yeah,
And you are aware of the two revolvers that were recovered in this case?
correct.
If the gun that was used that night, is it your understanding was not either one of those?
I mean, no, it wasn't those.
When Mr. Boyd leaves, he said he leaves in that white vehicle.
Correct.
He doesn't say anything to you. What happens after Mr. Boyd leaves?
I mean, well, let me back up on that. Before he left, when he was inside the living room, everybody was going back and forth and arguing, if you will say, and trying to see what was going on, and then me, Latavis, and Vanessa wanted to leave, and Mr. Boyd and Mr. Davidson were saying that, hold on, let us finish, basically let us finish doing whatever we're doing, and then we can see what you all are talking about.
And so let me back up a little bit. When did that incident take place?
That happened.
In relationship to Mr. Newsom's murder?
Oh, that was after.
Okay, so when you and Mr. Boyd get back, tell us, I guess, walk us through again what happens when you and Mr. Boyd get back to the house.
When they was still inside when he was still standing in the front bedroom doorway, and Mr. Davidson was still inside of the front bedroom, that's when they were saying when they were speaking to each other, that's when Mr. Collins was like, well, can we, what I'm saying, what's going on? Can we go, or what's going on? And then that's when Mr. Boyd and Mr. Davidson were like, no, hold on.
Now, who is the one who says, let us finish up what we're doing first?
Mr. Boyd.
Did you know what he was talking about? What were they trying to finish up?
I don't know.
What happens after that conversation?
Then Mr. Boyd leaves, but he comes back after about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know where he went. I don't know.
Does he come back inside the house?
Yes.
Okay, so walk us through that. How does he come back inside of the house?
He just came in, and at this point, Mr. Davidson, Mr. Collins, and myself, and Ms. Coleman are in the living room. And when he came in, that's when Mr. Davidson was like, okay, now where you want to go? And we wanted to go to Vincent's house, I forget his last name, and just didn't, we went over there, but he wasn't there, and then we ended up staying at the Chipman Street house.
Vince Wernemont?
Yes.
Do you recognize Exhibit 300?
There's Vince.
I'd like to move Exhibit 300 in as evidence.
No objection.
Let it be received.
I'll write Vince up here. Now, do you recall whether or not Vince was married or had a girlfriend at the time?
I think think he was married. I'm not for sure if it was his girlfriend or.
You recognize Exhibit 307?
Yes. That's. I mean, I don't know her name, but that was Vince's girlfriend. Or,
Okay, I'll just write Vince's role. I'd like to move Exhibit 307 in, and I'll just write Vince's girlfriend.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Let it be received.
So, I'm going to back you up. You said that Mr. Boyd comes back. Is he still in the white car when he comes back?
correct.
When he comes inside of the living room, tell us more about, you said you had do you know where Shannon was when he came back?
She was still in the front bedroom.
Did you hear her say anything?
I mean, no. I mean, I didn't just go into the front bedroom. The only places that I had went was the living room and the back bedroom.
When Mr. Boyd comes back, tell us what happens when he walks into the living room.
He just said something to LaMarcus, and then that's when LaMarcus was like, "Well, what's up? Where you want to go? What do y'all, what y'all want to do?" And then that's when we all had jumped into the SUV and went over to Vince's house.
And who all jumps into the SUV?
LaMarcus, LaTalvis, Vanessa, and me.
And where's Mr. Boyd?
Still at the house.
And so when the four of you get into the SUV, who's driving?
LaMarcus.
Who's sitting in the front passenger seat?
LaTalvis.
Where are you sitting?
Behind LaTalvis.
And where's Ms. Coleman seated?
Behind LaMarcus.
And so when y'all get into the SUV, where's Mr. Boyd?
He's still at the house.
Does he stay at the house while y'all go to Vince's?
Yes.
Where is Shannon Christian?
Still at the house.
Now, you're not from Knoxville. I don't know, do you know where Vince's house is?
I mean, I don't, like, coming from Chipman Street, I know how to get to his house, but as far as, like, east, west, or north, or south, I have no idea.
When you're driving over Vince's house, is there any conversation going on in the car?
No, LaMarcus has the radio. The radio was loud.
What happens when you get to Vince's house?
No, he wasn't there.
Who gets out of the car and knocks on the door? How do you know he's not there?
Well, we kind of all jumped out and went up to the house, and LaMarcus was knocking on the door, and there wasn't no answer.
You all get back into the vehicle?
Yes.
Same seating arrangement?
Yeah.
What happens when you get back in the SUV?
He drives around, and then end up going back to the Chipman Street house.
When you get back to Chipman Street, you go inside of the house?
Yes.
Who's inside of the house when you get there?
Mr. Boyd and Miss Christian.
Where's Miss Christian?
Still inside the front bedroom.
Where's Mr. Boyd?
He was in the living room when we came in.
What happens when you get back to Chipman Street?
We stayed there and stayed the night.
Did anyone say anything about Miss Christian or Mr. Newsom? Whenever you get back to Chipman Street, does Mr. Boyd stay there with you?
No, he had left again and then came back the next morning.
So whenever you get back from Vince's, how long do you think you stay there with Mr. Boyd before Mr. Boyd leaves?
about 4 hours, give or take.
So what are y'all doing there in the house?
Nothing, smoking weed and just sitting around.
What's Miss Christian doing?
She was in the front bedroom. I mean, I didn't go into the front bedroom. I don't know exactly what was going on or.
Who all goes into the front bedroom?
Mr. Davidson, Mr. Boyd. I think Mr. Collins went in there a couple of times.
Do you ever hear Miss Christian scream or cry?
No.
What happens after that?
Then come the morning, Sunday morning, everybody was like, I mean, Mr. Boyd was gone. Mr. Davidson was still there. Mr. Collins, Miss Coleman, and myself. I mean, just woke up and really, I mean, didn't do anything, just looked. I mean, it wasn't really nothing to say. I mean,
Miss Christian still there at the house?
yes.
After y'all wake up, what happens?
It was just, I mean, we just sat right there for a good little while, and then Mr. Collins had wanted to go to the store, and Mr. Collins, myself, and Miss Coleman walked to the store and then come back.
When you come back, who's at the house?
Just, I mean, at the time, I'm thinking it was Mr. Davidson and Miss Christian.
When y'all woke up, did you see Mr. Davidson or Miss Christian?
Now, when we came back to the house, we saw Mr. Davidson.
But when you first walked up, did you see Mr. Davidson at all?
No, I'm saying he was in the house,
Oh, okay.
but I mean, when we came back, I assumed that Miss Christian was in there.
Does he say anything to you? Did you talk to him about Miss Christian being in the bedroom?
No.
Y'all eat when y'all wake up?
Well, yeah, before we went to the store, yes.
You know whether or not Miss Christian had anything to eat or drink?
I think somebody went in there and gave her something. I'm not for sure.
When you get back from the store, do you have a conversation with Mr. Davidson at all? Or?
I mean, no, because, I mean, the way I was looking at it, I mean, the less that I say anything or put my 2 cents in, then the better for myself.
All right, what happens when y'all get back from the store?
We come back in and Mr. Davidson is still right there, but the SUV is not over there. It's not. It was parked in front of the house, but it wasn't there anymore.
What happens next?
Then a little while later, Miss Sutton comes, Daphne comes over, and she asked him, I think she was coming to get some makeup or something. She had to go to work, and then she went into the front bedroom with Mr. Davidson, and she said something, and they got into it. They said, I mean, they was at the front bedroom, so I didn't hear exactly what they were saying, but they got into it, and she came out, and then she tried to go towards the kitchen, and he grabbed her and said something like, "This is my house," or "You don't live here anymore." And she left out of her house, but she had a bag in her hand.
Do you remember where Miss Christian was when she came over, when Daphne came over?
I mean, I had assumed that she was in the front bedroom.
I apologize, you said that Ms. Sutton was trying to go into the kitchen. I apologize, walk us back to that again.
They came out the front bedroom. She tried to go to the kitchen, and that's when he had grabbed her.
Right, was after that?
She just kind of turned around and just walked out the house.
What happened after that?
Then stayed right there stayed over there, and because I was rolling up a blunt, a cigar when she came in, smoked that, and then that's when we left and went to Vincent's house. Me, Latalvis, and Vanessa.
Where was Mr. Davis?
He stayed at his house.
Where was Miss Christian?
As far as, like I said, as far as I knew that she was inside of the front bedroom when we came back and Miss Sutton was there, but I know she didn't see Miss Christian, so.
How do you know that?
Because, she didn't, 9 times out of 10, if she would have saw her, I'm pretty sure she would have said something.
So you never heard Miss Sutton say, "Oh, who is this?"
No.
How did y'all get to Vince's?
We walked.
Who all walked to Vince's?
Miss Coleman, Mr. Commons, and myself.
When you got to Vince's, was he there?
Yes.
So what happened then?
We stayed over his house, like that rest of that little while of that day, and then went over to some lady's house down the ways from his house.
If you were to see her picture again, could you identify her?
I'm pretty sure.
Susan Hill. Do you recognize Exhibit 299?
Yes.
Who is this person in 299? You may not know her name. That's
If I can recall, I think she said her name was Jody or something.
is this the person that you rode with or the person you stayed with? If you don't know, that's fine.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
remember.
So you said you went to a location. When you got to that location, what did y'all do at that location?
We stayed there at night.
Spent the night there?
Yes.
Who all spent the night there?
Miss Coleman, Mr. Cobbins, and myself.
And spending the night there, what happened the next morning when you woke up?
That's when we had gotten to. I think her name was Jody, the one who car we had got in, and she drove us to Kentucky.
If you were to see her picture, could you identify her?
Yeah.
If you can't, that's okay. Show you Exhibit 298.
Yeah,
And who do you recognize this person to be?
that would be Jody.
And what did she do?
She drove us to Kentucky.
I'd like to move Exhibit 298 in as evidence.
No objection.
Let it be received.
What's said in the car?
Nothing too much.
Does anyone talk about what took place on Chittenden Street?
No.
So the lady that, let me back up, the lady whose house you spent the night at, did any of y'all tell her what took place at Chittenden Street?
I didn't.
You didn't. And Jody, the one that you rode to Kentucky with, did you tell her what happened in Chipman Street?
No,
Did you hear anyone else in the car tell her what happened in Chipman Street?
not that I can recall.
So, on the ride to Kentucky, where did she take y'all to?
She took us to Natasha's house.
And what happens when you get to Natasha's house?
We just get out the car and like, grab our bags and knock on. I think we knocked on the window because the porch. I mean, the front window was right out there on the porch, and then started knocking on the door.
And who all is there with you?
It was Mr. Collins, Miss Coleman, and myself.
And did you get inside of Miss Hayes' house?
Yes.
What happens when you get inside Miss Hayes' house?
Nothing much. Just she asked us like, what are you doing here? What's going on? And I think Mr. Collins said something like it didn't work out or something.
Y'all stay there at Miss Hayes' house? Y'all spend the night?
Yes.
Where do you stay at the house?
I stayed upstairs.
And where does Mr. Cobbins and Miss Coleman stay?
In the back, inside the bedroom in the back where the washer and dryer were.
While y'all are there at Miss Hayes' house, or do y'all check the news sites or something?
Yes.
What happens the next day?
The next day, if I'm not mistaken, that's when the police showed up.
Now, you are taken into custody.
Correct.
You go down to the police department,
Correct.
and were you interviewed by law enforcement?
Correct.
Prior to being interviewed, were you informed of your Miranda rights?
Correct.
It's going to be 4:35. No. 4:44. If I can approach and show you Exhibit 444. Do you recognize Exhibit 444?
Yes.
What is Exhibit 444?
The waiver that I signed at the police department up there.
Now, after each right, did you put your initial?
Correct.
And did you waive your rights and agree to make a statement?
I did.
And did you initial that?
Yes.
Did you put your signature there?
Yes.
The place is Lebanon, Kentucky Police Department.
Yes.
The date, January 11th, 2007,
Yes.
at 4:40 p.m.
Yes.
Now, were you interviewed by probably 3 detectives, Jimmy J.J. Jones,
Yes.
Sheriff Tim Hutchison,
Yes.
and Detective Neville Norman?
Yes.
And Detective Norman and Detective Jones, they signed that as a witness.
Yes.
I can move this in as Exhibit 444.
No objection.
Let it be received.
And sir, you in fact gave a statement to law enforcement,
Yes.
and you are aware that statement was recorded.
Yes.
Now, after giving the statement, you were arrested.
Yes.
You have been through 2 trials.
Yes.
You've been convicted at each trial.
Yes.
The first time you were sentenced to life without parole,
Yes.
and you are currently, your current sentence now is life plus 25.
Correct.
Now, has an agreement been worked out between your attorney, Mr. Jeffers, and you and the state?
Yes.
Mr. Jeffers, for the record, is he here in court today?
Yes, he is.
He has the guy sitting with the jacket on and the legal pad.
Correct.
What is your understanding of the agreement that you have with the state?
Basically, 50-year sentence.
At what percentage?
100.
And has an agreement been worked out as to what you're going to plead guilty to? The actual charges?
Yes, I think it's just the 2 counts of first-degree murder.
But it's your understanding that it's 50 years at 100%?
Well, 25 and 25. I mean, that's how I got to 50, but it's 25 for each count.
Added together?
Correct.
And then the 100%, is it your understanding you're eligible for 15% off of the 100%?
Correct.
And so that's how we get to the 50 and 85%?
Yeah, it'll be 8, yes.
Has the state told you what to say today?
No.
Have I met with you?
No.
Has General Morton met with you?
No.
I believe Investigator Childress, he has met with you.
Correct.
And Leland Price, an attorney in our office, has met with you.
Correct.
The Investigator Childress, has he told you what to say?
No.
Did Leland Price tell you what to say?
No.
Have you met with your attorney?
Yes.
Has your attorney told you what to say?
No.
Any time that you have met with Detective Childress or Attorney Leland Price, has your attorney, Les Jeffers, been present?
Every time.
You have never met with the state without your attorney present?
No, I haven't.
Did you know Mr. Boyd's nickname? What name did you know him by at the time?
I didn't know him as Eric at first. I just knew him as E.
E?
Yes.
And what vehicle did E drive?
As far as I ever seen him, he was driving a white car.
Each time he came to Chipman Street? Well, I mean, on that Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
So after Mr. Newsom was shot, set on fire, you said you go back to Chipman Street.
Yes.
You said at some point in time Mr. Boyd leaves,
Yes.
and you said he returned.
Yes.
When he returns, is he still driving the white vehicle?
I mean, as far as I know, yes.
Whenever he leaves that time, does he come back again?
Like,
I guess I'm just trying to find out, after he kills Mr. Newsom, how many times does he come back to the house?
he left a little while after that happened, then stayed, then he left a little while after that, and after we already had came back from Vincent's house when he wasn't there, he left.
Does he come back again?
No, I didn't see him.
So were you present when Miss Christian was killed?
I wasn't present when she was killed, but I cannot give you the timeline on when she was killed, because like I said, after we came back from the store, I figured that she was still inside the front bedroom.
Were you present for when she was put in the trash can?
No.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Davidson raped her? Quick, setting the trial aside. When you were there at the house, did you know whether or not Miss Christian was raped?
I mean, I didn't know that she was raped, but then, I mean, a part of me figured that it happened.
Did you rape Miss Christian?
No, I did not.
Did you rape Mr. Newsom?
No, I did not.
Did you bind Miss Christian?
No, I did not.
Did you bind Mr. Newsom?
I did not.
Did you kill Miss Christian?
I did not.
Did you kill Mr. Newsom?
I did not.
But you understand that under the concept of criminal responsibility that you're guilty.
Yeah, and under the theory of criminal responsibility, I was found guilty of doing the murder, the rape, the kidnapping, the robberies, the thefts. I was convicted of everything that a principal was, well, the actor, the person who committed the crime, I was convicted of the same exact crime that they were convicted of or committed.
Because of criminal responsibility.
Because of criminal responsibility.
And the jury's going to hear this later, but is your memory that we didn't find any of your DNA anywhere in the house?
Yeah, there was no DNA, no forensic whatsoever. I mean, no fingerprints, no nothing of mine that was found. Like the DNA inside the two victims wasn't there. Nothing directly linked me to the murders, kidnapping, robbery, nothing.
We used your statement at trial.
Correct.
Right? Now those DVDs that were rented from the checkout in the library,
yes.
Those are your DVDs?
Yes, I checked them out. I checked them out.
If I can approach and show you Exhibit 129, you recognize Exhibit 129?
Yes.
What is Exhibit 129?
That's my wallet and things that were in my pocket, ink pens, lighter.
And I guess when was that? Where were you at? When was that picture taken? Is that what they had? What you had on you at the time you were arrested?
Correct.
Was that taken up in Kentucky?
Yes.
I'd like to move this in as 129.
No objection.
So it looks like there's two coins.
Yes.
What kind of coins would that be?
I can't remember. Might have been some. Might have been like some pesos or something.
And that's your wallet?
Correct.
And your ID?
Correct.
Your cigarette lighter?
Correct.
And 2 pens?
Yes.
Were these items your items?
Yes.
These items belong to the victims?
No, they did not.
And Exhibit 431, are these the two people we're speaking about?
Yes.
And you now know them as?
Miss Christian and Mr. Newsom.
I'd like to move these in as Exhibit 431.
No objection.
Let them be received.
The items, were you present when the items were removed from the SUV? Bags of clothes, bags of personal stuff?
No, I mean, I know that they were inside the house. I didn't take them out of the SUV and put them into the house.
Did you see who did that?
I do not. I didn't see it.
Did you hear who did that? Did anyone hear anyone say anything about that?
No.
Do you know, I want to go back to Mr. Newsom, do you know what happened to his pants?
No, I do not.
Do you know when his legs were bound?
No.
Do you know when he got mud on the bottom of his feet?
I would assume that it was when he walked over the drainage ditch.
Do you know where the sweatshirt came that was wrapped around his head?
No.
You know what kind of sweatshirt it was?
No.
His shoes, do you know what happened to his shoes? Did you ever see anybody with his shoes?
Yes. Well, I didn't see him wearing them, but Mr. Davidson had his shoes.
I know you've seen pictures of, did you actually see him with the shoes?
No.
Do you know how Miss Christian's shoes ended up in the closet in the back bedroom?
No.
Going back to the statement that you gave to law enforcement up in Kentucky, did you give them all of these details?
I did not.
Why not?
Because I really didn't want to get myself drugged into the murders and everything else. I was really just trying to say as little as possible, really.
Now, going to the statement that you gave to the detectives in Kentucky, I believe you told them that Mr. Boyd and Mr. Davidson left out with Mr. Wilson.
Well, I said that they left out, but Mr. Davidson came back into the house, and Mr. Boyd left with Mr. Newsom.
You just removed yourself from the vehicle.
Yes.
Were you present when Miss Christian made the phone call to her dad?
No.
You remember that happening?
No.
You never heard Miss Christian say anything?
No. I mean, I didn't hear it.
Did you ever hear Mr. Newsom say anything?
Not that I can recall. I don't believe so.
No, you're fine.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I was just telling Mr. Jefferson I didn't need the chair like that. We'll go back to the train tracks. Do you recall any bedding being in the SUV?
If it was in the back with the gas can. Because when we got into the SUV, I mean, I didn't look in the back. So, I mean, it could have already been right there with the gas can.
That gas can, did you ever see that gas can again?
It might have ended up back inside the house.
Do you know who brought it inside the house?
Mr. Boyd could have brought it in. I'm not for sure.
And you're aware of the gas cans that were in the house. Do you know
Yes.
which room? The one in the sunroom or the one in the kitchen?
The one in the kitchen.
Did you ever make a statement in Kentucky that I'm sorry I shot that boy?
No, I did not.
Or I'm sorry I killed that boy?
No, I did not.
And Mr. Thomas, you don't recall hearing Shannon speak on the phone?
No, I do not.
Pastor,
Cross-examination.
Before I start that, I would request if there's any jinx material, any
sorry?
I would request a copy of any jinx material, if there is any, for this witness.
Yeah,
We can approach.
we provided the defense with a copy of Mr. Thomas's statement. We've also provided the defense with a copy of Mr. Investigator Childress's notes, even though those notes are not Mr. Thomas's statements.
Are you aware of any other statements made?
We've turned over to the defense the jail phone calls that Mr. Thomas made while he was in Marion County.
You can approach. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I was hoping we could report a little bit later, but something's come up and there's not going to be time to handle it all today when we get back to the cross-examination. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. There will be media coverage of this case. There's no question about that. So again, I caution you, be careful. If something comes on the radio or on the television or on your computer services or in the newspaper, as soon as you realize what it is, turn away from it. It is absolutely essential that when you make your decision is based only upon what comes to you through the witnesses and the exhibits to the testimony. We'll start again tomorrow at 9:30. Please be here before 9:30. Have a pleasant evening. Don't even think about the case. Just put it out there.
Bring your notebook, please.
All right, we'll be adjourned. This case will be adjourned till 9:30. Court will open at 9 o'clock in the morning.